Okay, can I just start this video by saying that Riz Ahmed is my tip for the next Bond after Daniel Craig. If you're going to be doing it differently, please pick Riz Ahmed. He just has everything that is needed to be James Bond. So yeah, that was just something I had to start the video with. But Riz Ahmed is on this list because he holds many different approaches to how diversity and representation should be tackled within the UK film and TV industry. Most notably, at the beginning of 2020, he said that he doesn't like the word diversity, similar to Ava DuVernay as well, in that for him it's an emotionless word that doesn't mean anything bar really a numbers game. He prefers to use representation. It's something I try to use more as well, is to say that we need to better representation, not necessarily diversity. Riz Ahmed as James Bond, that isn't diversity, it's representation. It's showing minoritized people that they can be that character, they can be the charmer, the most diligent, the most heroic guy in the room, but also in terms of Daniel Craig's Bond at least, a very human and flawed character as well. And this actually links to something that Riz gave in a speech to the UK Parliament a couple years back, and I'll be focusing kind of on that a little bit in this video, and as to why Riz is on this list and why representation has always got to be better than diversity. So let's get into this.
Sometimes it's very easy to look at the screen and go, oh look, things are changing so much. Look, there's Riz, there's Idris, there's Michaela Cole doing chewing gum. These examples are often prominent because they are the exception that proves the rule. Prominent successes can mask structural problems. Obama was in the White House and you still needed the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm getting on a plane to LA to attend the Star Wars premiere, and I still get that second search before I board the plane.
But welcome to video 7 here on this 10-part series on Hakuna MaChatter, in which I am exploring some of my favourite diversity heroes, the people working inside Hollywood, inside the UK film and TV industry, who are bettering diversity and representation in the film and TV industry. So it's back in 2017 that Riz Ahmed actually gave a speech to the UK Parliament, and it was a really interesting speech because he was willing to go to great lengths in order to tell Parliament exactly what the knock-on effect of little to no, of bad, of terrible, of awful representation to minoritized people, the impact it can have, particularly on young lives when growing up. And this was something he wanted to address, and he wanted the UK Parliament to, bring into law, to bring in changes that would affect what kind of films are being made in the UK. So what Riz was saying is that he fears that we are beginning to lose young people here in the UK to the likes of ISIS. And obviously that's changed a little bit now because ISIS aren't as prominent as they were back in 2017, but Riz was definitely fearing that we were going to lose a lot of young people to them because the recruitment videos he was saying that are being used by ISIS show that they can make the recruit feel like they're James Bond, feel like they're the biggest action hero in the world. And there was nothing here in the UK, there was no counter-narrative. There were no films or TV shows that were sort of saying, well, hang on a minute, you do have a place in our society and this is how we see you. And my kind of example of how this is missing is that I grew up watching the TV show Spooks in the noughties, and an amazing show. Actually, what you kind of notice is that a lot of the Middle Eastern characters, a lot of the Middle Eastern actors, probably more often than not were playing a terrorist, and that was all that we were getting to see these characters as, and these actors as, and these people as. We weren't being shown that actually they're also this as well. They're everyday people like you and I. Nope, if they're brown skinned, then they are a terrorist. That's already a massive issue. It happens a lot in Hollywood as well, the way that black people are always represented as criminals, same with Latinx people as well, and you just kind of have to sit there and go, it shouldn't take an actor such as Riz Ahmed to have to step in front of a government and say, yo, you need to be put into law to sort this shit out.
Now, if we fail to represent people in our mainstream narratives, they'll switch off. They'll retreat to fringe narratives, to filter bubbles online, and sometimes even off to Syria. In the mind of the ISIS recruit, he's a version of James Bond, right?
And look, it's that lack of diverse storytelling here in the UK that forced actors like Riz Ahmed, like David Oyelowo, Idris Elba, David Harewood to go across to the US and find roles there where they were able to actually begin and start and build and have a career. And what they're working towards, as Riz describes in an article he wrote for The Guardian, is that he wants to reach what is called the Promised Land. Now, for him, the Promised Land is, he names 3 stages, but the third stage I think is the most important, which is the Promised Land. And that third stage is when an actor, a minoritized actor, an actor of colour, when they're playing a part that the character is just some bloke called Dave, is how Riz describes it. Yeah, he's just some bloke called Dave. That's it. That's who the character is. Their story, their character is not built around their race and about racial issues and socio-politics and so on and so forth. They just kind of get to leave the front door, go to the shop, buy milk, and be the hero of the film or TV show, essentially, is what he's saying. And it doesn't have to be about race. And I suppose Riz has reached that in a few of his roles. You look at Bodhi in Rogue One, you look at him as the villain in Venom as well. Both those characters living their lives void of their race being a necessity to who they are. But it still kind of hasn't been enough for Riz. You know, he still feels that even though he's hit these big Hollywood films, and it seems that, you know, from the interviews I've watched and read, that he's obviously been enjoying doing it. I mean, how could you not? But that there's still a narrative he wants to talk and he wants to shape and he wants to be a voice in, and that is the narrative of brown people, of his race and where he comes from. And he has a film that came out at the beginning of 2020, which I've not been able to watch yet, obviously due to the pandemic. I mean, no one's been able to watch it, and I'm sure no one is more unhappy of no one being able to watch it than Riz Ahmed is. But it's interesting. It's called Mogul Mowgli. Riz and the director Bassam Tariq, what they wanted to do is they wanted to tell this film, this film to have a voice of its own, that they weren't, you know, even though they were going to include everything about their race and their religion and everything, they didn't want it to be a film where they have to explain all that stuff. Instead, you know, it's established, that's who we are, we're just going to kind of go forth with it. And they were really aiming to find their own language with the film. So when eventually it does come out, I actually can't wait to watch it, having read the thoughts of Riz and Bassam in one of the articles, which will be posted down in the description box. And actually, you know, a reason why Riz made this film is, you know, for him it's the time to ask permission to tell stories and to be big figures in stories. Like, he's no longer doing it. He's no longer asking for permission. That's the whole kind of title of this video, particularly looking at Riz, is that, you know, you got to kind of make it yourself, and you've got to do it in your way and find your way of speaking. It's something that Spike Lee does really well. It's something that Ava DuVernay does really well, and Jordan Peele does well. And so it's exciting now to see Riz, who I've always idolised, to see him now being able to do that as well. And it's not just in film that he's doing it. It's also in music as well. If you haven't, I really recommend you listen to his album The Long Goodbye, which came out, it was either last year or it was either 2019 it came out, or beginning of 2020, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. The album is a breakup. It's a breakup from Brexit Britain. You know, he wrote it after the Brexit vote went through, and for those outside of the UK that maybe don't know, the way things changed here around Brexit, and, you know, I'm sure you know so much because it's all that ever came out of Britain news-wise, but levels of racism rose very quickly in Britain, and interestingly enough, it was largely targeted towards black and brown people.
Hate crimes went up 41%. Against Muslims, they went up 326%. In the 1930s, we had a very similar situation to what we have today. Political polarization, economic disenfranchisement after a big financial crash, rising inequality, systematic scapegoating of certain minorities. What's at stake here is whether or not we will move forwards together.
Which shows why Brexit was such a ridiculous thing, but, you know, because most of the immigrants from the EU will be white and not black or brown. But hey, there you go. So his album The Long Goodbye is a breakup. It's a metaphor of Brexit Britain, of Britain breaking up with him, not him breaking up with Britain. And particularly the first track on that album, it's, you know, it's not a song, it's more spoken word, and he draws you to attention straight away, and so you're in for the rest of the album. But, you know, that is what he's doing. He's using his art to, as I say, no longer ask for permission to tell the story. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to tell you it from my point of view, because it's very different from everything you're reading in the papers, very, very different from everything you've watched in your film and TV shows for the past decades. And it's great to see someone like Riz, who is so universally well known and so, well, I guess famous in a way, to actually just, you know, take it back and go, well, no, hang on a minute. I've made my money, I've done what I need to do. Now I need to really just get in there and address these issues in society that need to be addressed and that I can make a difference in. If the UK film and TV industry isn't going to show minoritized people, and in particular young minoritized people, that they are valued, that they have a place within society, you need people like Riz to damn well go out and do it.
Now, as a lot of the politicians in the room might know, it's sometimes the most fantastical and unrealistic stories that make the biggest impact. But even in those stories, what people are looking for is the message that they belong, that they're part of something, that they are seen and heard, and that despite, or perhaps because of the uniqueness of their experience, they are valued. They want to feel represented.
So in terms of my recommendations for Riz Ahmed, please just listen to The Long Goodbye. That is, for me, the best way you're going to understand where he's coming from in no longer wanting to ask permission and using his art to address the socio-political issues that mean something to him. And you will get everything you need from Riz Ahmed across through that album. I've listened to it so much. I'm probably going to listen to it again as I pack down the studio equipment. I'm in my front room. What am I laughing about? So in my next video, we're going to explore something kind of interesting, I think, because I'm going to be talking about someone who is building herself up to be an intrinsic ally to the black community, and I find it amazing. She's also kind of my celebrity crush, so for me, she just wins on all kinds of forms. It's Brie Larson, and I can't wait to show you this video because I just talking about what she is doing and how she's putting herself in a place where she can be an ally and where she can help you to become a better ally. Yeah, it's going to be a very fun video. So if you want to see that, if you want to understand how to become a better ally to the black community and learn from someone as cool as Brie Larson, make sure you subscribe, turn on that bell notification so you can be notified when that video drops. But let me know, Riz Ahmed for James Bond, are you here for it? Drop it in the comment section down below. Let me know if you think Riz should be the next Bond. Until then, Hakuna MaChatter.